This meeting is being recorded.
All right, good evening, everyone. I thank you all for coming to the Auburn Gresham January meeting of the Roundtable. As you all know, or let me remind you all that this is our 15th Roundtable since the Invest Southwest initiative started under Mayor Lightfoot. We started these meetings in May of 2020. This is our 15th Roundtable. In addition to that, we have had 3 in-person meetings. We supported and worked with Alderman David Moore on 2 town halls. And we also had 2 visioning sessions, one in June of 2020 and one in July of 2021. So that is 22 meetings. That's a lot of engagement. I just want to remind you all that the city is here, the city has been here, and the city will continue to be here to provide a platform for all of the voices in this wonderful community to not only hear what the city is doing, but for us to hear what the community would love to see coming to their neighborhood in development, in community activities, and more. So I want to let you all know that we're also going to be joined here shortly by Alderman David Moore.
He's present. He's present now. He's just probably getting he's present now. He's getting his computer adjusted. Continue. I'm sorry about that.
Alderman David Moore is here this evening. We thank him and his office, Chief of Staff Cornelia Dawson, and as well as our other community partners, the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation. I know Norma Sanders is here. I'm not sure if Carlos is, but we thank you all the residents as well who make our work really fruitful and worth endeavoring to do and worth the labor. So let's start. Here's tonight's agenda. We're going to start with reflecting on roundtables. As you may remember, we had a survey at our last meeting. Then we're also going to go into a wonderful new program that the mayor has announced called the Chicago Recovery Plan Grant. And then we're going to get an update on our community development project, and our development team, Evergreen Imagine, is here today to give us a brief update. And then a wonderful initiative by the city in our long-term planning called We Will Chicago. We're going to have a quick briefing on that as well. And then before we get to our last part, which is an open discussion and community updates and any questions and answers, we are going to provide you with an update on the Chicago Streetscape program. And we have our Cdot consultant, Chad Ogren, here this evening to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to start our program with the first agenda item, reflecting on the roundtables. And that will be presented by Caroline Tendon of LISC. Good evening, Caroline. Welcome to the roundtable.
Hi, Patrick. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'll be very brief. I think many of you probably remember the survey that was sent out November, December, around the holidays. And it's really just a few questions asking for feedback on the roundtables themselves. So we're at sort of a good point now to evaluate how they're going and what we can do to really make these effective forums for engagement and community input. So the survey is just the first step in that process. We'll also have some kind of live facilitated sessions with all of you to dig more into some of the issues identified, but we want the survey as kind of a baseline understanding of how folks are feeling and what you'd like to see moving forward. So we've got about 18 responses from Auburn Gresham thus far, and I would love to get a few more. So we're keeping the survey open online for a few more days, maybe a couple of weeks. So I'm going to put those the links in the chat. It's available in English and Spanish. So please click on those links and just have that tab open as a reminder to yourself to complete the survey. It should just be about 10 minutes, not a super long survey. And I'll be on for a couple of minutes if there's any questions or concerns. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, Caroline. And you're going to drop that in the chat, right? So folks can get it.
Yep, it should be in the chat now. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Okay, folks, we have a chance for further engagement. Please take full advantage of that. Our next presenter is Jim Harbin, who is the Deputy Commissioner at DPD, and he's going to talk about the Chicago Recovery Plan program. And Jim, before you start, I just want to also acknowledge the Chief of Staff for Alderman Howard Brookins. The 21st Ward office is here, Carla Glover. We want to make sure that we acknowledge all of our people. So thank you, Carla, for joining us as well. Jim?
Yeah,
Welcome to
thank
the-
you, Patrick, and thank you, everyone, and good evening. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Jim Harbin. I'm a Deputy Commissioner here at the Department of Planning and Development, and happy to share another resource that just got released from our department. Patrick, are you showing the slides? Because I don't see the deck changing at all.
Yeah, I've got control. You don't see it?
I do not see. Does everybody else see it? Was it just me?
What does everyone see?
It's
just
just
on the
Auburn
cover
Gresham
side.
Roundtable, January the 27th, 2022, DBD.
Oh, wow. Okay, hold on.
And while you're teeing that up, I would just kind of set the table. So back in January 6th of this month, we did a webinar in which we literally had over 1,500 registrants. We had over 700 participants, in which we discussed the Chicago Recovery Plan for Community Development Grant, for the Community Development Grant. And it is literally us marshaling resources that have come down from the federal government in the tune of $1.2 billion that is coming through the city that we are trying to make sure finds its way to projects throughout the entire city. And as soon as Patrick brings up the slide, I will go ahead and keep going. There you go.
Sorry about the delay, folks. Do you all see,
I see a blank screen. Planning Bureau has started sharing screen.
right, okay, I see that too.
I can pull it up while if you want to work on that a little bit more. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, go ahead, Jim, thanks.
You need to give me ability to share. All right, thank you. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm going to make it bigger so everybody can see. Are we good, guys?
Yep, looks good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So many of you, more than likely, knowing this group, are participated in that webinar and know well about this program. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. I'm also going to leave my information in the chat. I'm also going to have time at the end for some quick questions. But if you guys want to take a deeper dive in your questions, I'm happy to accommodate that offline. But today, I'm just going to do a quick overview of the recovery plan itself. I'm going to talk a little bit about the grant in terms of what's eligible and in terms of the process for the application. I'm going to tell you guys a few tips in terms of what we're actually looking for in terms of selection. And then obviously I'll take a question or two so we can continue to get going. So as I alluded to, we are truly looking at over $1 billion in investment regarding the Chicago Recovery Plan. If you look very closely, our department, the Department of Planning, is going to be focused on these three areas that I have highlighted: community development, small business development and workforce support, and community climate investments. And the goals for our department are going to stay the same as they have been for the other grants that you guys are very well aware of: our Small Business Improvement Fund, or SPIF, our Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, or NOF. You know, all of those grants, including this one, still looks to strengthen local corridors, enhance neighborhood vitality, and drive equitable equitable economic recovery. And so you guys know the drill. There's some slight changes that I'm going to highlight as I talk about what this grant can be used for in its eligibility. So as an example, we're still looking at expansion and renovation for existing businesses. We're looking at new locations for startups in existing businesses, new construction at vacant properties. Now, here's where it gets a little different. First, the applicants can still apply for either under $250,000 or over $250,000. The difference is the amount. In our NOF program, for instance, we usually have looked at projects at about the $1.5 million, $2 million range. This particular grant program can go up to $5 million. And then lastly, the grant can't be more than 75% of the total project cost. In other words, there needs to be an opportunity to demonstrate that you can bring 25% to the table, and this grant can help cover the other 75. So what's eligible? There's some slight changes here. If you look to the right, the eligible expenses remain the same. Exterior and interior renovations. Let me get that out the way so you guys can see. Build outs for incoming businesses, acquisition, architectural and engineering fees. That's a slight tweak based on what we piloted on the NOF and the Small Business Improvement Fund grant program. Roofing, masonry, mechanical systems. And again, I use the analogy, if you can pick up the building and shake it upside down, whatever fell out is not eligible. What's attached to those bones is usually what's eligible for the program. The application is open to the usual suspects. Commercial or light manufacturing, both NOF and SPIF help cover those particular programming. Here's where it gets different. The mixed use are those properties where you have that commercial on the bottom and that residential on the top. We just launched last year a tweaking of one of our programs called TIF Purchase Rehab, in which we wanted to capture these type of projects on corridors, particularly on the south and west sides of Chicago. This particular grant program can also cover the same thing. Business owners and entrepreneurs, community developers, community-based organizations, property owners, all eligible. Here's another tweak. NOF and SPIF usually have to tie into a geography, either a TIF district or a qualified investment area. This particular grant doesn't care. It's going to consider projects no matter where they exist in the city. Big tweak. So what are how do you summarize this? One, we're not limited to location. Two, we're looking at light manufacturing misuse. Those are all eligible as part of this project. And many of you who know the NOF or the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund grant program well, know that we discourage projects that are building out their commercial spaces with the hope of finding a tenant. This particular grant program is having those particular projects remain eligible. So how will we be doing our selection? Nothing has changed. We're still looking for quality projects with strong local impact, things like job creation, amenities, services that benefit the community. We're looking for that. We're still looking in historically disinvested areas. We're still looking on the south and west sides of Chicago. That hasn't changed. What we have done is expanded that geography to include other areas of the city that haven't necessarily experienced these type of programming. We're also looking for projects that demonstrate momentum. And what do we mean by that? Projects that are ready to break ground this year. Those projects that have been cooking, that have been baking, and this grant comes along and yep, we want to help push you over the edge, get you to the finish line. We also suggest that site control is preferred. What that simply means is if you own it, you probably can make a pretty doggone good case that you can get it done. If you don't own it, we still want to leave it open. If you can articulate the path to that site control, those projects are going to be considered as well. So what is our process? Two things that needs to be noted. One, we got a small grant tier in our portal, and we got a large grant tier within our portal. And I'm going to talk about that portal in just a second. Here's where it gets interesting. What we have here are dates, and you see there's a date coming up on January 31st. That date simply means that is the date in which the department is going to take the applications that have come in to date and start the process of evaluation. Can I turn in my application on February 1st, Jim? Yes, you can. This is the rolling part of the application period. We will be taking applications for the better part of the year. And so there is no time where you can't get that application in As a matter of fact, we discourage you to just put in an application to meet any one of these dates. What we're chasing is quality applications. We want to give ourselves a chance with these dates to do a manageable job in terms of our evaluation process. So the portal, and I'm going to put this into the chat. If you need to remember something, besides chicago.gov/Shy Recovery Grant, all you need to remember is Shy Recovery Grant. If you Google Shy Recovery Grant, it is going to be the first thing that pops up on Google. That's where you're going to get not only information about this grant program that I'm sharing with you today, you would also get a copy of the webinar that we conducted on January 6th. You will get access to the frequently asked questions and the answers, and you will get instructions in terms of where and how you submit your application. The one thing I do want to note is that, like our NOF application, we have a project assessment portal. So before you spend a lot of time putting together the application and trying to get documentation in order to make your application as best you can, we have a project assessment with about 10 questions that will help you better understand if your project is ready. So, and again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Again, if you remember Shy Recovery Grant, this particular slide, along with the slide before it, talked about the small grant portal and the large grant portal. You guys know your projects better than I do. You guys know if there's individuals out there who are looking for this type of support, particularly in the Auburn Gresham area, how to connect us, how to connect them to this portal. So some quick tips. One, project readiness. We're looking for projects that are ready. That's a demonstration of site control, a demonstration that you've thought through schedule, a demonstration that you've got costs and you've got multiple estimates for those costs, and a demonstration that you're going to be equitable in terms of the contractors that you use. We also are looking for community engagement. Auburn Gresham has plenty. If your application starts talking to some of the things that have been identified in those community plans, we're going to be taking that into consideration. Has it been socialized on portals like this, or portals in terms of community engagement that has been conducted by the Alderman's office or by the community-based organization, Greater Auburn Gresham? You know, if you can demonstrate that you've socialized your project with this community, it actually scores you points. And then corridor conditions. We had one applicant a couple of years ago that suggests that their project was going to be the only sandwich shop in the community. And a simple Google search by our evaluation team demonstrated that there was more than one sandwich shop on the corridor that he was actually suggesting. So know your area, know your project, know your community that your project is going to reside. And then lastly, design. I think most of you on the call know that our department is laser focused on how things look in our communities. We are not just looking for projects, we're looking for good looking projects. Projects that also include equity, innovation, celebrating where you are and understanding that community and doing that with your design. Sustainability is going to be awarded. We're looking for that type of innovation that demonstrates that you're thinking through those type of cost savings. And then communication. What is your project actually saying when it actually is completed? What is it saying to the community once you are up and running? We want to pay attention to how you articulate that. So one of the other things that must be noted is that there's a ton of resources out there to help support you through an application process. We have linked to city resources and materials such as how do you articulate enhancing your project readiness? How do you demonstrate that financial feasibility, construction planning, business planning? How do you show your catalytic impact? We also want to note that there are organizations on the ground like Greater Auburn Gresham who can help assist with putting together solid applications to help you connect to these resources. We are in a moment in time, and I've never seen resources out on the street like this for small business and particularly businesses of color at this moment. We need to take advantage of that. There are resources out there to help you do that. We should be back here next year talking about the number of businesses that have spurred up on our corridors because people have stepped up and took advantage of these resources. So with that, I know we got time, Patrick. I want to take a question or two if it's out there. But thank you guys for your time today.
No, that's all. Thanks a lot. Before we entertain a couple of minutes worth of vocal questions, I want to read one that came through in the chat from Monique. Monique asked, Monique Harris, can an applicant be awarded the NOF or SPIF and the recovery grant?
The short answer to that is no. We are not encouraging to stack the grants. What we want to do, though, is to have you apply for this particular grant. And if we see that there's a better alignment with any of the other programs, we will be contacting that applicant to walk them through what that process might look like. But no, this is the application we want to use to start triaging what works best, and we will not be stacking the grants. No.
Okay. Are there any other questions about the
I see
program?
another one that says, how will we get the word out?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's one dear to my heart. There's 70 people on this call. There's the Alderman's office, who I know is a soldier in terms of getting information out the door. There's nobody in Auburn Gresham who shouldn't know about this based on the people on this call. You guys are the movers and shakers of Auburn Gresham, period. Get the word out. These are dollars and cents waiting for people to take advantage of it.
Okay, we have one last question here that I'll take from Rhea Steele, who asked,
Hey, Rhea.
What's the turnaround time for awarding the grant? And will it be rolling, or will you announce the awardees all at once?
Yeah, we won't announce them all at once. We do intend to have it rolling. And I'm unapologetic to say that we're still working through that. We tended to want to lean on the era of getting this word out and opening up this application, and we're working through those details right now, Rhea.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll take one more, Jim. This is relevant.
Okay.
This is from Shriji Builder.
Mhm.
Does a recent half-constructed or full constructed project, would that qualify for this particular grant, or is there another resource available for them to consider that the city would entertain?
So what I'm going to ask that individual to do is to call me. I left my number and my email in the chat. Reach out to me. I'll circle back. We can take as deep of a dive as you need.
Okay, thanks. Folks, please note that this is another funding source. This is in addition to the NOF, in addition to TIF, in addition to small business improvement funds. And this is another new way for us to infuse capital into projects to make sure that we have the right types of monies available to assist small business and or otherwise. I want to just welcome Carlos Nelson. I see you online. He is the CEO of GAGDC. Thank you for joining us this evening. I apologize for the tech difficulty I had earlier. I know next on our agenda, we thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim, for your presentation. We have an update now on the community development project that we've all been endeavoring for the last so many months. Evergreen Imagine joint venture is here this evening. David Block, I've made you a co-host. You have screen share capabilities. You're going to run through a quick briefing and an update on where we are today with the project. And David Block, welcome to the roundtable.
Thank you, Patrick. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Alderman, and everyone else. It's nice to see everyone again. Let me see if this will do what it needs to do here. Can everybody see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm gonna make that full screen there. So thank you all for coming out tonight. Unfortunately, Tori Barrett, my partner on this project from Imagine Group, was not able to be here, but is Fred Spencer here with us tonight? I don't know if Fred was able to make it or not. In any case, Tori sends his regrets. He's on a plane right now, but otherwise he would have been here. So this is the Evergreen Imagine JV team. We were the team that responded to the Invest Southwest original RFP between Green and Peoria on 79th Street. Our architect is Ross Barney Architects and NIA. And we have been working with GMA Construction to get up to the minute construction pricing. So we've been doing a lot of work over the last several months. We spent a lot of time talking about design, talking about planning and zoning, and talking about the building, about massing and materials. And we've gone through, I think, probably 4 or maybe 5 discussions. And in each iteration, we think the design has gotten just a little bit better. And we think it's now at the place where it really is reflective of the community conversations that we had early on. I hope that most of you on this call were able to participate in one of the early meetings that we had. We had about 6, maybe 7 community conversations, and we had a number of those in person. So we had a community charrette at St. Sabina's. We had an open house, a series of open house days at Foster Park. So there's been a lot of discussion, and I think everybody remembers that there was not universal acclaim for the project, but I think the initial project that came out, where a lot of people really didn't like what they saw, this is now very different than that. We have listened, we have responded to those initial concerns. And again, we think that this is definitely moving in the right direction. So as far as zoning is concerned, I'll show you some design information as we move forward, but we are starting the sort of official zoning process. The building that we're showing on the original RFP site, which we call Site 1, we don't need to change the original zoning on that site because the building is compliant with the zoning as we've designed it. So there's no need to make a zoning change there. And I think everybody understands that in response to community concerns, we actually expanded the project, reduced the density on the original site, and added a second site at the southeast corner of 79th and Halsted, and moved some of the units over there just because, as a financing matter, you need a certain number of units in order to make for a financeable project. So that site, we will need a zoning change, and we're anticipating going from a B13 to a B33. This gives us some more flexibility in use. This allows us to take advantage of the transit-oriented and affordable housing parking allowances there. So again, I'll show you some pictures in a second. So our goal is to really get into the formal zoning hopper in the next maybe 2 weeks or so, so that we can go through the Plan Commission, the Community Development Commission, and end up at City Council sometime over the next maybe 3 months or so. And I'll show better pictures of these as we go through, but this is some images of the current state of design. We've been working with Department of Housing on financing the project. And so we're working on a variety of funding sources, federal sources from the city, TIF, and private financing, private first mortgage financing. We have applied for a state funding opportunity, in some ways similar to the recovery funds that Jim was just talking about, that specializes in main streets and commercial corridors. So we're hoping that the state awards us those funds, and we will hear about those in the next maybe 90 days or so. We've issued a request for debt and equity proposals from a pretty wide range of lenders and investors. So we should be hearing back from them in February. And the City Council actually did what's called a bond inducement, which is the technical first step. When you do a low-income housing tax credit project like this, there is it's what's called a private activity bond. It's not an obligation of the city. It's just a technical step that allows the tax credits to be issued. So the city took the first step in making that happen. So as I mentioned, the design has evolved a little bit. And on the left is the image that showed up in like 4 articles in the Block Club and a bunch of other places. And received a lot of criticism, mostly for the density, I think, not so much for the design, but for the number of units and the scale of the building proposed on the site. That original design was 62 units. concentrated on that site between Peoria and Green on the north side of 79th Street. And again, we heard you and we tried to incorporate your feedback in a meaningful way. So what's on the right there is the current state of design. So the building on the left, the original design was a 5-story building with a setback at the 5th floor. The building on the right, the current design, is only a 3-story building. It's got a little bit of a sort of cornice, kind of a dramatic flourish at the corner here to give it a little more scale and presence, but it is only 3 stories, and the first floor is all commercial space. So a restaurant and an urban plaza at this location. Tori, if you were here, is deeply involved in this restaurant. It's the Park Supper Club that is affiliated with the supper club that he opened on Garfield Boulevard. I think it's Garfield in Michigan is where his Clio building is. And so they are interested in opening up in Auburn Gresham as well. And so only 28 units in this concept, again, compared to 62 in the original design.
David, before you go on, this is Alderman Moore.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well. So this is my first time seeing that when we were talking about this design, are we offering up other things to the community? Because you just said, as you said, the one on the left wasn't so much about the design as we got good feedback on that design, but it was just about the number of units. So why did we go drastically away from the other design?
Well, I think it was, it's a good question, Alderman. I think it was a question of how do you reflect a lower density and give it an expression that would maybe be celebrating what's happening across the street at the Healthy Hub as well. If you see the space in between the buildings, it's an open courtyard there, and the open courtyard is designed to be on axis with the Healthy Hub building, so that there's actually a dialogue that happens across the street between the existing Art Deco building that will be beautifully restored and the new building that will have a courtyard where there can be sort of cafe style outdoor dining, and then the residential entrance as well. I think the other thing, and this was some comments that we got back from Department of Planning and Development, was they thought it would be good, particularly in this long site, because it is a full 600 plus long Chicago block, to almost have it look like 2 separate buildings that were almost designed by 2 separate architects. And so the idea was to kind of break up the mass into these 2 blocks, and there's a bridge in the middle that connects the 2 pieces. So that was some of the thinking behind these changes.
Okay, so what I'm looking at, and if I'm looking, the white building you're looking at as being the Healthy Hub site right there?
No. This is where the Healthy Hub is over here.
That's what I thought. So what is this
Yeah.
white building over there?
This is all part of our original RFP site. This is one building, but it's designed to look like 2 buildings.
So it's one building with the 28 units, but designed to look like 2 different buildings?
Correct.
Yeah, so folks, it just has 2 different expressions. And Dave, why don't you remind the folks also that there's community room space, there's a backup building that has outdoor space plus parking, and again, the 5,000 plus square feet of retail. Some of the stuff that we originally all agreed to when we were first looking at the building and what it would offer to the community in the beginning concepts of what the designs looked like back then.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, so
like I said, well, if we may want to come with some more, I'll let the community decide on it and chime in on it. I'm just, I'm not feeling it, to tell you the truth. But I'll let the community chime in on it and whatever they think they want. And if this is the only presentation in terms of design that we're looking at, then I think we may have to reconsider, but I'll let the community, I don't want to influence their decision. I'll let them chime in. I think that's part of what this meeting is about, to make sure that we get their input, as I talked about before, on that design. The original one was a beautiful design. I think we got some good reviews on those. And but again, it was just about the size. So
Okay. Let me finish going through this and then we can come back to that, Alderman.
all right.
So again, this was I'm showing you sort of the before and after. On the left was the first concept for the building at 79th Street and Halsted. So that is the southeast corner. We're looking toward the southeast there. And there was a lot of discussion about how that building interacted with the streets, whether it sort of had the right scale and feel for that corner. And after a lot of back and forth and really about a dozen iterations of this design, the building on the right is the current design where we've ended up, I think giving a much stronger expression to the corner. With balconies for these units, balconies for units in the middle of this block here, and then there are balconies back here. What's nice about this, if you're over there and there's not a building there now, so it's a little hard to tell unless you're standing there sort of looking or even measuring the sidewalk, but the sidewalks are very tight. And there is a 79th Street corridor streetscape improvement project that's designed to widen the sidewalks out a little bit, but it's only going to be, 2 to 3 feet. So the idea is that there is a little setback in the building that actually moves the building face back about 7 or 8 feet here to create a little plaza opportunity a little bit off the corner. So this is right at the corner, and then as you're heading east toward the metro station, this piece of the building is set back and creating an outdoor space, again, for some retail opportunities at that corner. So that is that's the evolution of those projects. Here's a closer view of that. So there are now 30 units at this building, 15 parking spots in the back, and about 3,400 square feet of commercial space at the corner, and then a little bit around the side as well. So that's the design update.
Okay, so understandably, we have a lot of reaction from in the chat here. And I honestly want to say that I think this might be like a little bit of a shock to folks because we just haven't been able to meet due to the holidays and some outbreaks that we had with the Omicron. And so like, this is our first time, getting recaught and reacclimated with the development and its progress to date. So why don't you just, soak it in a little bit. But remember, we kind of all decided that 62 units was too dense at the 838 location across the street from the Healthy Lifestyle Hub. And so we all agreed that a reduction in density would be better there, which was accomplished. We've kept our program of offering commercial space, community space, there's outdoor space. All those things are still in the design of what we just saw, so that's good. And we've also been able to, from a financing standpoint, hit a magic number in the sense of total units. And so we actually are now developing 2 sites. The other one, as you know, was also vacant for a number of years as the previous building was demolished probably over 15 years ago. So, we're able to, I think, really see progress on the corridor in addition to, what we've already seen coming across the street with the Healthy Lifestyle Hub. And we still have, other things that we want to be able to accomplish on the 79th and Hall Street corridor with the 3 other vacant buildings that are, underutilized and vacant right now. So we still got a lot of work to do, but we think this is a great start.
Hey, Patrick, given that folks have a lot of questions about the design, I was just expecting this to be a brief update, but I'm happy to spend a little more time and show a few more pictures. I do think that the pictures, are worth 1,000 words here. So I'm going to share my screen again and
Okay.
show additional images, because I think that the images are probably more persuasive if you look at it from different perspectives. So here, let me put this back up on the screen.
And you want to take some questions too, Dave? A couple?
Yeah, I'll take some questions, but let me just quickly run
Sure.
through this so
Yep.
that people understand. So this is the original site. So this building that we're talking about, it's this one, right? So this is the one that's across the street from the Healthy Lifestyle Hub. So the site plan here, and this is, we're tweaking this and it's evolving, but you can see the two buildings. So this is the light mass, the white and gray mass over here. And this is the reddish brick mass. And there's a bridge here, and I'll show you the second floor plan, but there's parking in the back. And as we discussed at some of our previous meetings, one of the big concerns that came out of all of these previous roundtables was, where are people in the neighborhood parking? So we have provided, in addition to parking for the residents of the building in here, we've provided a number of parking spaces right off the alley that could be for people who work at the Healthy Hub or who are visitors to the Healthy Hub. It's available for folks in the neighborhood to help alleviate concerns about parking. So we really did incorporate the community concerns as we were thinking about this site plan. There's also a landscaped area. So again, I saw a question about, what does on axis mean? This is on axis right here. So if you go across the street, this is the front door to the Healthy Living Hub on the south side of 79th Street. If you come out of that front door, you're looking directly at this landscaped area under the bridge. And so I'll show you what that experience is like. This is the view that you'll see through there. So you'll see that the building actually bridges over, and there's this outdoor patio space. This is a community room that is available for residents of the building, but it could also be used to host community events and so on and so forth. And then here's the upper levels of the building connecting across this bridge. So I think this image gives you a much better sense of when I say it's designed to look like two buildings. This really shows you what that means. All right. I'm not going to go through all these plans in detail. These are the floor plans. The yellow units are 1 bedrooms. The orange units here are 2 bedrooms, and there's a small number of 3-bedroom units in this. Total of 28 units, only 2 of them are 3 bedrooms. It's mostly 1 and 2 bedroom units in this building. There's a laundry room in the bridge. There's a little lounge area in the bridge. So we think it's a layout that actually makes a lot of sense for how this building will be used. Here's the back view. So we are now looking south. So you can kind of see in the distance, this is the Healthy Hub kind of through the glass over here. This is the little landscaped area. So we're looking really from the alley back into the building, and it's designed to have kind of an enclosed area that could be a little play space, or it can be a place for older kids to hang out and have kind of eyes on it, so that it's not just it's not an unsafe area that's tucked away. You can have really good visibility from the street, and all the units are looking out onto it. So we think that's a good amenity for the building and for the site. We talked about some design concepts when we were working with DPD about whether it makes more sense to have curb cuts and entrances into the parking off Peoria and Green or off the alley. I think the assembled teams at the Department of Planning and Development, Department of Housing, Chicago Transportation Department, was that they did prefer this one that has the curb cuts on the side streets rather than coming in off the alley. So again, these are the images, and we looked at a couple of revisions to the site plan, the landscape, but we're looking at details at this point. And then moving on to this other site. So this is the site at 79th and Halsted. And again, as you can see, this gives you a little bit of better view. I don't know if everyone can see these dimensions, but the sidewalks are really narrow. So it's only 3'7" from the face of the building to the edge of the property. And then from the edge of the property to the curb, is only about 5 feet. So that is much shallower than a typical Chicago sidewalk. A sidewalk is typically around 4 feet wide, and maybe a 6-foot tree lawn, and then even sometimes a little 12 or 18-inch curb area before you actually get to the street. And we don't have any of that here because this is a pretty tight urban corner. So we're trying to maximize this by setting the edges of the building back a little bit. And then you can see here that we're actually setting this part of it back 8 feet from the property line to create a shallow, but still, I think, really usable and attractive little sitting area in the front of the building. Here's our parking spaces in the back, the residential lobby here, retail space, and retail space on the other side. I'm not going to go through the plans again. 30 units here, mostly 1s, 2s, with a couple of 3 bedrooms as well. And there's a blown up view of this, but I think these other views are also pretty illuminating. So now we're looking north, southwest on this view. So this is actually the strip center over here and the former Bank of America branch, the Save-A-Lot down here. So we're looking in this direction, so you can see the residential lobby and then a retail area here and the retail area here. You see how the units over here have their own balconies looking out into the street. So we think that's a nice amenity. These are just some head-on views from the different sides. So this is from 79th Street looking south at the building. This is looking north, kind of on, sorry, this is the Halsted side of the building. And then as you're looking north on Halsted, this is the south face of the building that you'll see there. So that's some additional images. Hopefully that gives some more context to these buildings. So I'm happy to take some questions now. Patrick, do you want to moderate this?
Okay, sure. We'll take some questions from the chat. Let me scroll up a little bit. We got a lot of comments. Excuse me. All right. Elaine Wilson has asked, we need to see better drawings, so I think we've done that, but who has access to the parking? I believe that was for building number 1. And then where are the patrons of the lounge? So where would the patrons, be? I guess where is the setup for the restaurant concept? Who has access to the parking? That's a question for building 1.
Yeah, and I think the mechanism that Tori and his partners have used at Clio is a valet parking mechanism, and I think the intent was to do the same at this site. So there will be an off-site lot, and so people will pull up in front of the building on 79th Street, and a valet will take their car to another location, and when they're done, they give them the claim check.
Patrick, there was a young lady you just said, the one you was asking, you said she had a couple of questions, and you said, I think her questions, we need to see better drawings, and then you said we have done that. What you mean we have done that?
No, what I'm saying is, yeah, well, I think what she was saying was, can we see better drawings? Then Dave said, let me show you more drawings. Because the first
no, Dave said, let me show you more angles, more different sides of the drawing. I guess what they're asking, so you'll be clear. So are you saying that this is your final design, your best and final design?
I believe that this represents the optimum design given everything that this project is being asked to do. And given the evolution of this project, we think that this is the direction that we're going in. Yes.
That's what I want to hear from the community on. All right.
Let me try to get that question. Let's see here. Okay, Rhea Steele was asking, the first design is more appealing. How do we look at design options? So more along the same line about showing the community different options or what have you. Here, Crystalline Charity is asking, does the 3-story versus the 5-story layout still allow for an elevator?
Yes. Yeah, both of these buildings actually have 2 elevators in them.
Okay. Let's see. All right. GAGDC says 2 buildings seem a bit overwhelming. How are the living units being offered in the red building? Let me first, before you answer that question, were some of these questions resolved by being able to
Yes.
see more of the images in different angles?
For
I feel
me,
like-
Patrick, that one was, yeah, that one was answered. I didn't know we were gonna get to see more, but
Yeah.
before that, David, you said something about lining up on an axis. I didn't know what that meant. Did you say AXIS?
Yeah. So this
What did that
this
mean?
this is what I'm talking about here. So this is the middle of our building, but the middle of our building is designed to line up with the middle of your building, so that the 2 buildings are sort of facing each other, and your front entrance is facing our courtyard space here. That's how they're designed to talk to each other.
Okay, thanks, Norma. We got another question from Elaine, Elaine Wilson, resident, who's asking, or who asked, sorry, how and do you control, or how do you control who will occupy the play area? This is for building 1, and is it that play area also, is it for residents only? That's a question from Elaine Wilson.
So I'll answer the second question first. The intent is that this is for the building, that it's not intended to be a public park. It's not out there for everyone. We're still in the early stages of the site design. We were wondering whether we need to surround that play area with a fence and a gate. The images that you see don't have that. We actually kind of hope that we don't need it, but we also recognize that there are crime concerns in this neighborhood. So if we need it, we have started thinking about how that could work. So if that's the case, then yes, the residents who use it will have to have a key fob access or something like that in order to get in there. It's not the most friendly image, so we're hoping we don't have to do it. But again, I guess that sort of requires some further development.
All right, Dave, were you able to show a front elevation of building 1? I thought you did.
I don't have anything like a direct head on. I mean, I have this view and then this view.
Okay. Well, I think that's sufficient. Oh, and we had a question about from Barbara White, has asked why 2 different colors on the bridged buildings? I think you answered that already, but go ahead and try to provide an answer to that question one more
Oh,
time.
you mean 2 different colors over here?
Yeah, building 1. Yeah.
Or between here and here?
So Barbara, you can unmute yourself and maybe clarify the question if I didn't articulate that properly.
The red building and the white building, why just
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, again, I think the idea here was that the designers thought it was important that to break down the scale of this long block, which is, more than 600 feet long, that it was important that these looked like 2 buildings, even though they are really technically designed as a single building.
Single building.
Okay. I want to be able to just kind of absorb the feedback. Obviously, we are recording this meeting and we'll be able to take all this and maybe provide you with some more, reactions, the development team, as we continue to work with the developers. But I want to ask one more question here. It's asked by Crystalline Charity. Some of you may have seen it, but it's based on the parking. So her question is based on the expected numbers of visitors and employees for the Healthy Hub and current residents and their visitors, the parking seems very insufficient. Additionally, as GAGDC mentions, the housing, though reduced, is still overwhelming and frankly, not a priority. The retail space, namely a grocery store, bank, and pharmacy, should be the priorities. There are 2 cafes very close to Brewer Coffee and Custard and Afro Joe's, and 1 potential cafe for the Healthy Hub. In summary, I think the true community priorities have not been addressed in her view. Okay, that's a lot there. So GAGDC, Carlos and Norma, let me first ask you, and I'm not trying to make this a symposium, guys. I just want to make sure we address some of these comments. The parking seems insufficient. I know that part of what Dave said is what we worked on throughout the whole exercise of working together is to try to satisfy and provide some relief on parking, that we can expect, anticipate. So do you think that is sufficient or insufficient? Because obviously she's saying GDC's mentioned. I didn't hear you say that, but
yeah, I don't think that's what Norma was implying there. I don't know. Norma would have to speak for herself. I will say though, unrelated to this, so that illustration that David showed in this whole on-axis, and this is just Carlos's own opinion. I mean, that's a very attractive design. So I was glad that he was able to rotate. To me, it's a very attractive design for the corridor, really bringing on more of the open space. Yeah, that's it there. Yeah, we do have Brewer nearby. We have Afro Joe's nearby as well. Yeah, there's a cafe going in, but I think that just shows, kind of what Auburn Gresham is becoming. It's becoming a destination, a place of destination, and I would imagine maybe Alderman Moore can talk about the grocery option. I see where it says retail space and need for grocery, banks, pharmacy. Much of that is being addressed, and I don't know if Alderman Moore wants to unmute and talk about that, but certainly the bank, there will be a bank directly across the street in the Healthy Hub. Bank of America is coming back. There will be a pharmacy in the Healthy Hub as well, an independently owned pharmacy. And then there's plans for a grocery option to return to 79th and 79th and Halsted area. So for me, and this is just, this looks attractive. I think that whole red brick, maybe something that needs to be, kind of talked about. Maybe, tweaking that design. But for me, it kind of fits into the flow of what the Healthy Hub is speaking to. And now it is really communicating with the building, with the Healthy Hub. As far as
Guys, I
Yeah, go ahead, Norma.
apologize. My computer crashed with no power. At the exact minute I came back, I heard my name. And so I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to be commenting on.
yeah, Carlos addressed it. We're gonna move on. So I think we have some good feedback here. Obviously, we are recording I don't understand the question that was just, I'm requesting the approximate number. Miss Wilson, do you just want to come off mute and ask your question? I'll let you
Yes.
get this last one in, but we want to complete our
Okay.
agenda to maybe get you out of here by
Thank you.
7:30.
I was just asking, I'm looking at what will be provided at the Healthy Hub, the services that will be provided, which will bring additional persons in addition to the persons who will be working at the Healthy Hub providing services. Can we get some idea when we look at those numbers of persons coming in and parking? So nobody's speaking to that. I know we've got two different projects, but what is the foot traffic looking like at Healthy Hub also? Because all of this works together to me and for our community.
Okay, I think that's a Carlos or Norma
Yeah.
question.
Yeah,
regarding
and right. And so we can present at, upcoming
Maybe
town hall
March.
meeting on,
Yeah.
March
Yeah.
meeting. But UI Health, who will be the health provider partner operating the health center, expects to see 30,000, up to 30,000 in patients in the first year. And then, of course, there's offices above, second, third, and fourth floor with approximately 100 or so employees or staff in the building.
That's my concern, Mr. Burchett. Where are all these people going to, park? And maybe we just haven't heard that yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your question. I think what we'll do for sure, I already spoke to GAGDC during one of our regular meetings, and they will be here on the February meeting to provide a full update on all of their activities and all the good news and the success that they're working on with respect to their projects. And so we may be able to get a little bit more deeper into that detail, Ms. Wilson, at the next meeting. But you all have some great questions. I'll continue to try to answer some of those in the chat while we move on with the rest of our agenda. In the essence of time, we are going to waive tonight's presentation of We Will Chicago, and we'll have Gabriella come back, Gabriella Jurasik, who is the Assistant Commissioner for our DPD Communications Division. She'll come back and present that mayoral initiative at our next roundtable meeting. But our next and final agenda item is a presentation on the Cdot Streetscape. I am pleased to welcome you, Chad Ogren, who is the consultant working with Cdot, who's here this evening to present an update on that project, which, as you all remember, is an $11.2 million bond-funded program project in our the mayor's 5-year capital improvement program. So, Chad, I'm going to make you a presenter, a co-host, so you can share your screen. And also, I see Lubica Benek from Cdot as well, who's here. So thank you, Lubica, for joining us.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yep, absolutely.
So I was just going to quickly introduce the project, and then Chad will take over since he's been so active in
right. There you go.
Running the project. Thank you. So thanks for having us tonight. And it's exciting to be here. My name is Lubica Benek. I'm Director of Chicago Department of Transportation's Livable Streets program. We facilitate a lot of the streetscapes in the city of Chicago. And then Chad, who you're going to hear from in just a couple slides, is here tonight to kind of announce our public meeting coming up and encouraging you all to attend and to spread the word. But we've been here a few months back. We haven't been back for a couple of months and wanted to give you a brief update. We are working on a corridor improvement project on 79th Street between Fielding and Paulina, and then also on Halstead Street, 78th Street to 80th Street, which mirrors the Invest Southwest corridor. Next slide, please. So our project is supporting the Invest Southwest initiative for those of you who didn't see our last presentation months back, and it aims to reactivate neighborhood cores that have historically served as core community spaces, and then is also part of our Chicago Works program, which is Mayor Lightfoot's 5-year capital program that invests in community infrastructure. And again, this shows kind of the limits of our project and also what the project scope includes. So previously, 79th Street, as you all know, was Streetscape many years ago. So we're going to be taking a look at that, or we are, and seeing what needs to be updated. We're going to be doing full width resurfacing on the roadway, any drainage improvements, new sidewalk, curb and gutter, looking at pedestrian safety improvements along the corridor, as well as updating all of the corners to compliant ADA ramps, and also making sure all the crosswalks are marked throughout. Looking at street lighting. So we've done some initial conditions assessment, and most of the lighting is in good condition. We'll be repainting all of that, and then also carrying the streetscape lighting in areas where it doesn't currently exist. Traffic signal upgrades where needed. Again, pavement markings and signage, all new signage along the corridor, as well as looking at enhancing the sidewalk area with paver parkways, tree planting, planters, and perennial plantings in various spots, also including site furnishings and potential seating areas. We're also going to be updating the existing light pole community identifiers that are currently out on 79th Street. So we're creating new ones that are going to be much bigger, but that follow similar design that's already been created. And we'll be presenting all of this at the public meeting. We'll announce in a little bit. And we'll also look at doing a larger neighborhood identifier on the corridor as well. Next slide, please. Just want to get through this quickly, just so you know, we kicked off this project in spring of 2021, and we are in the process of developing the concept. So we've been out busy doing a lot of survey work, data collection and analysis, and Chad will touch on that in a couple slides, and developing the concept for the corridor. So what are those improvements? Where are they taking place? What does it look like? And in Q2 of this year, we'll be moving into our final design. So creating those detailed construction documents that we can go out and bid. And then construction is anticipated to start towards the latter part of this year. It will be constructed in 2 sections. So the first section starting again, latter part this year, and then the second section the following year. And once we have exact dates, we'll be reporting that out to you guys. Next slide, please. And this slide just shows a little bit of the public outreach process that we're taking on. And so in spring 2021, we kicked off the project with design. We had our aldermanic meetings. We came to one of the Invest Southwest roundtables this past summer. And we've, as mentioned, busy doing existing conditions analysis and condition assessments of all the infrastructure. And we're here in winter 21-22 at our second Invest Southwest Roundtable. We've coordinated with some various stakeholders along the corridor so far, and we will be having our first public meeting come February 15th. And I think now we'll pass it off to Chad for some detailed info.
Yeah, oh, thanks, Luca. Hello, everyone. I'm Chad Auburn. I'm working with Cdot on the corridor project. And we were talking about what Luca was mentioning. We've looked at the we took the engineering analysis of the corridor, and we've got a few numbers, a few issues for you in red. We wanted to make sure that you knew we were aware of. First thing we took a look at was the on-street parking in the corridor. We've got around 600 parking spots. Most of them are free parking spots. A few of them are metered parking spots. The thing we did observe throughout the corridor, from the west to the east to Fielding on the east and along 70 on Halstead, is that there's a lot of availability for on-street parking. We looked at historical images and current, out in the field, and we figured there's about 7% occupancy rate is what we're seeing. So there's a lot of parking available on the street. We took a look at the traffic data using the information that IDOT has gathered, and the most recent data is from the years 2018 to 2020. And everybody knows, in case they didn't know, the entire corridor is signed for about 30 miles per hour speed limit. And what the data is telling us is that the average speed in the corridor is 38 miles per hour. and what we did is we broke up the corridor into 4 different sections. And the average across all 4 sections is 38 miles per hour. One of the sections on the west end is the average speed is around 44 miles per hour of course in a 30 mile per hour zone. So it's a little bit fast. Another thing we observed, we're doing our traffic, getting our existing traffic data, and we're noticing that there are a lot of semi trucks driving through the corridor. And just in terms of the percentage of vehicles driving daily on a daily commute, you can typically expect around, we're observing 10% of all the traffic is semi truck, and that's high. 79th Street is an arterial, Halsted is an arterial road. So for an arterial road, we expect to see semi trucks around 3 to 5%. Typically, and we're observing 10%. And that, just to give you a frame of reference, that's more akin to an interstate. Interstate traffic, you're seeing 10 to 15% is the expectation. So yeah, you've got there are a lot of semi trucks that are using the corridor. And what really happens in that corridor is 79th Street is a connection between the Dan Ryan Expressway on the east and Interstate 294 on the west. It's just a few miles, and I think that's known in the semi trucking industry. So another thing we took a look at was the crash data, and what we again from that same time period. 2018 to 2020, we observed 819 recorded accidents, crashes. When you break it down, what types, the one that really jumps out is the side swipe. There's about 15% of all the crashes are side swipes, and typically for an arterial like 79th Street and Halsted, it should be around 5%. And some things that we noticed while we're out there is that we've got a lot of cars that are passing on the right side, of a 2-lane road, and the opportunity presents itself, and people take advantage of it, right? And so we know that's an issue, and part of the problem with it is the lanes, the pavement markings on 79th Street. There's not a defined parking lane, and that's mostly because the road is it's got multiple uses, right? There's peak hour parking, and so depending on time of day, one side of the road turns into a 2-lane road for a couple hours in the morning, and a couple hours in the afternoon. So then we took a look at the roadway geometry, and it's the typical width on 79th Street. On the west side, it's from Paulina to Ashland Avenue, it's 48 feet wide, and then from Ashland east to Fielding, it's 42 feet wide, and Halsted is typically 48 feet wide for the entirety. And so we're looking at what we can do with that width. They're a little bit wide and that width encourages, there's a correlation between street width and speeding. That's well documented in the engineering industry. So that the street width correlates to the speed that we're observing up here at 44 miles per hour and 38 miles per hour. So just moving on, and the next thing we wanted to let you know, we've got an ongoing dialogue with various stakeholders in the neighborhood. We've had meetings with the alderman in his office, GAG, DC, and the SSA, Leo Catholic High School. We touched base with some of the developments, the Auburn Gardens that we spoke about earlier in the meeting. the Healthy Lifestyle Hub, Metra, Auburn Park Station. We're talking with CTA about, how they use the corridor, and, we've got the different bus routes that are across the corridor, in addition to the number 79. And then, of course, we're talking with the DPD Bureau of Planning regarding Invest Southwest. And then, like Luca was saying earlier, we've got we're working towards our first community meeting, and we're coordinating that with the alderman and his office, and we're trying to get the word out. So, you're going to start seeing this flyer throughout the neighborhood electronically, maybe some hard copies too, but we're encouraging everyone, to attend. We'll get more graphics going and have, be able to field more questions, et cetera. But the meeting's coming up. It's February 15th from 6 to 7:30. And the good news is there are a couple ways to register. The QR code's working, the registration link's up and running, and you could go over there and you could submit questions, statements, and that stuff will work its way back to us at Cdot. So, and again, please circulate the invitation throughout the community. And then the last slide I have for you tonight, this is some of those links on one of the links on the flyer will take you to the dedicated webpage, which you'll see here. That's in navy blue down there. That's the webpage address. You'll find out more information about our corridor and CDOT's role in the other Invest Southwest corridors that we're talking about. So, and you'll be able to contact me directly there by filling out the questionnaire here on the bottom right, different concerns, things that we might not know that you want to share. So, that's my presentation. So, Patrick, if you wanted to take the mic, or if there are any questions, what have you.
Yeah, what we can do, there's a couple questions, or we're at our time, but I want to just give folks a little courtesy here to get their questions in. And so let me pull up the chat box here.
Oops.
All right, so a couple quick questions. Let me see here. How did you determine semi-truck traffic? And also 10% truck traffic seems kind of low. There's quite a bit of truck traffic regularly throughout the day. So if you could just quickly kind of address how you came up with that assessment to put into the report here, that'd be great.
Sure, yeah, great question. The last couple of weeks, we've been in the field with engineering equipment, recording video and taking traffic counts. And so we've been going through that information, and the math is just one car, one vehicle, it's either a car or a semi. And so that's how we're arriving at the 10%. But I wouldn't doubt if there's a perception that there's more semis, because they make a lot of noise and they're more noticeable than a car, right? So I can believe that you think that there's even more.
All right, and then one more CDOT related question. How will snowplows, this is asked by Cynthia Love, and I'm sorry, the first question that I gave you was jointly asked by Carlos Nelson and somebody else, I can't determine. Okay, Cynthia Love asks, how will the snowplows identify the bump outs on the street during snow removal? So I know we had that concern across the city on not major streets only, but a lot of streets. So how will we address that here after the work is done?
So, well, streets and sanitation, I mean, this is a tool that transportation department and actually all transportation departments across this nation and even internationally are using curb extensions or bump outs as pedestrian safety tools, right? They shorten the crossing distances, they make the pedestrian more visible to the vehicle. And these are all over the city, and Streets and Sanitation, who does our plowing, is becoming more and more familiar with them. If there's a concern, please share it with us. Like, have you noticed the plows hitting them more often? We also can do some reflective signage as well if there's some areas of concern. So if there's anything specific, or if you've seen something, please let us know and we can address those particular locations.
Okay. And what I'll do is I'm going to circulate this flyer for the next round of the next engagement to the email blast here, so everyone will get another opportunity to see this flyer. But also, folks, just please, did you guys put your information in the chat so people can see it? So make sure you guys copy Cdot contact information in the event we have questions down the road.
They're
Patrick,
also asking for the QR code
Yep, that just
for
came
the
in.
community meeting. Okay.
So Patrick, we will be sending out the flyer and everything to the entire Invest Southwest Roundtable. We could do that through you if you want tomorrow, and then also through the Alderman's office to help us distribute in the SSA. And so we'll be getting that out in the next couple days.
Yeah, sounds great.
And I think
Awesome.
Chad, can you scan the screen to get the QR code right now? Yeah.
Yeah, it actually, if you wanted to, you could screenshot this now. It'll work. I was the first one to register, and I think Ms. Sanders was the second. And I did it by scanning the QR code, just like you're looking at here. But otherwise, you could go the old-fashioned way, typing in the webpage address. That's on the
Chad,
flyer.
this is Lisa Washington. Can you tell people how to scan it?
Oh, yeah, sure. Sure. If you've got a smartphone, all I'm doing is going to my camera app, and I just point it at the QR code.
You have to hold it there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Mine just worked. I just held it up.
And then what happens is, well, look at that, what happened to me? And then what will happen is a window will pop up on my phone, and it will ask me, do you want to go to this web page? I click yes, and then it opens up the browser for me, and it takes you over. So it'll look, when I flip it to you, the pop-up window goes away. But you'll click on the link, and it'll open up your web browser, and it'll take you directly to the registration link. So.
Okay.
Mr. Burgess.
Yeah, I was actually going to call on you, Ms. Wilson. I was going to say,
thank you so much.
Yes, our last question.
Okay, Chad
will be by Ms. Wilson.
Chad did state earlier, I think he said that they had gathered their information from 2018 to 2020 on the trucking movement. But because there's a rail yard that's on 79th, and it goes from like St. Rita, which kind of at Western all the way almost to Kedzie. All those trucks come there to load up, and this has been significantly more in 2021. And I guess that's because the possible reasons. So I'm wondering if we could update that information, because you did state it was from 2018 to 2020. So that's my concern, because I'm driving 79th Street all the time during the midday. It's very crowded. It's nothing at night, in the evening, no. But during midday, during business hours, there are lots of trucks going to that yard and coming from.
Yeah, and just to working with your thought, I may have misspoke, but the traffic data is what was from 2018 to 2020. The speed data, we were in the field getting the traffic counts and the truck that helped us get to the 10% truck we did that in 2 weeks ago, January, the first 2 weeks in January, sorry, the second and third week in January.
So
So
if you looked at it over a longer period of time, your numbers may be increased.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And the when we're in the field, we're out there for consecutive days, more or less 7 days. We're taking the videos going and we're getting the traffic counts on consecutive days. So
A small sample.
oh
Thank you.
yeah, compared to months and years, yeah, definitely. But that's standard operating procedure. You know, the defined time period, as far as the engineering world goes, to take it during certain conditions, right? We've got to make sure people are in school, because it's not a holiday season, you know, where people might not be traveling. Yeah, I believe you though that there's more more trucks out there than necessary, and so.
Okay, so Ms. Wilson, really do appreciate your contribution to tonight's meeting and our discussions about all the projects that were presented tonight. Everyone, sorry we took you over 9 minutes. We did get a little late start, but we'll try to do better keeping on our schedule of having these meetings be no longer than 75 minutes. And we appreciate all of you, the 73 who came and the 58 that remained. It's a very significant number of folks who stayed on to the end. We appreciate your connection to what we're trying to keep doing in this community, either through the city or our partners in the neighborhoods. And I want to wish you all a happy new year. Thank you. And the next roundtable will be February 24th at 6 p.m. And the March roundtable is planned for March 31st, also at 6 p.m. We will see you all hopefully at the next level of engagement, which is the Cdot Streetscape engagement meeting on February 15th, which is just in a couple weeks' time. So thank you all. Have a great night, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Carlos.